In this video, I'm going to show you the only real way to scale an agency in today's market. Okay, I've still got my agency, run it for over 6 years now. We've got anywhere between 20 to 25 client accounts that we manage every single month. And what this video is going to help you do is instantly cut through all of the noise. Okay, it's going to show you exactly the specific actions you need to take to actually achieve scale with your agency. I'm going to show you everything you need to avoid, all of the fluff, all of the waffle. And by the end of this video, you're basically going to have everything you need to know when it comes to service delivery, tools that you need to use, offer creation, best channels for outreach, sales techniques, how to match objections, how to hire, how to set trial tasks, what to pay for those, how many hours to give those potential employees on those trial tasks, two call close frameworks, upsells, cross sells, downsells, how to do onboarding, churn management, how to increase retention, and ultimately how to achieve scale. Okay, so today's marketplace is very nuanced. It's very different to what it was a year ago, 24 months ago, but we've been in this game, over 6 years now. We've survived multiple different waves, multiple different fads and offers coming to the market. Quite simply, it comes down to this. Okay, so if you want your Stripe account to look like this, if you want to have freedom with your business, and by the end of this video, you're going to be able to achieve that. Okay, so the first step is determining what vehicle you want to commit to. Now, if you have an agency or you sell a digital service in the B2B landscape to a client, they're going to have to pay you to do something. Okay, and in order for you to actually do something, you're going to need a vehicle. You're going to need some sort of niche, some sort of vertical that you work within. Okay, and I'm going to show you how you can decide that in this world of opportunities, in this sea of offers. I'm going to show you a very quick tool that you can kind of implement that will help you commit to a model with security and confidence. Okay, so it might be AI. Okay, for us, we've got an AI offer which we built off the back of our email marketing offer. Okay, with us, like I say, I think we've got 23 accounts under management. Normally on an average month, it's anywhere between 20 to 25 accounts, depending on where our client brands are in their kind of brand genesis. I've got other videos on the channel where I've actually gone live into our agency account. I've shown you all of the client accounts that we're working with. In this case, I can't be bothered to do that. I've just showed you a blanked out version here because I don't want you to actually know who my clients are, so you can't contact them. But ultimately, it comes down to this. Okay, you've got to pick a tool, whether it's Meta, whether it's an AI tool, whether it's Klaviyo, whatever it might be. You have to pick a tool, and ultimately, this tool is going to shape your implementation. This is going to provide you with the vehicle where you deliver your service for the client. Okay, now more complex offers will layer multiple different tools on top of each other, but ultimately, when you come to a client and you pitch them an offer, you're going to be doing the lion's share of your work on one tool. Okay, that's what's recommended. Now, when it comes to that hack that I told you about, really it comes down to two questions that you need to ask yourself. Firstly, do you like it? And secondly, do you know it? Okay, so a lot of the guys that I've worked with to help flesh out offers and pick verticals and niches, I'll first ask them, what transferable skills do you have that you could actually inject into this new agency offer? Okay, so perhaps you've been a full-time employee, or you've worked part-time, or you've been a contractor or a freelancer, and you've done some email marketing, or you've written copy, or you've run LinkedIn ads, or whatever it might be. Where do you have an existing base of knowledge? Okay, where are you already confident with what you might be able to pitch? Okay, and the best offers are ones that you have some sort of knowledge or awareness or insight into that's unique, that you can then partner with some sort of natural interest or enjoyment around. Okay, so you don't have to follow your passion, you don't have to absolutely love it, but if you do love it, it's going to help you. Okay, so combining knowledge with interest is really going to set you up with strong foundations when then going into actually offer creation. All right. And ultimately, the reason this is important is because when it comes to knowledge, acquiring knowledge and learning, I see the average agency owner make this exact same mistake where they think, right, I want to sell email marketing services to e-commerce brands, for example, as the service delivery vehicle. That means I have to learn the platform. I have to become the best at implementing on that platform, whether it's Klaviyo or MailChimp or Omnisend, whatever it might be. So then they spend 10,000 plus hours trying to learn everything they can about that platform, only to then realize and despair that there are an infinite number of other people out there who are more experienced with the platform, who actually know more than they do. And also, it's kind of the curse of the entrepreneur. The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. Okay, so ultimately, when it comes to knowledge acquisition, it has to relate to conviction. Okay, now you might never have the confidence you think you need to sell services, but you can have a high level of conviction around the small amount of knowledge you have. Okay, so this ultimately, I've got other videos on the channel of how to get to this level of conviction, but this really has to frame your learning. Okay, learn as much as you need to learn in order to actually sell the service. That's all you need to do as your entrepreneur. Okay, so if you haven't got that conviction yet, keep learning. But when you do get that conviction, when you think, actually, I could sit on a sales call and speak to that mum and pop store down the road about email marketing and know more than they will know, then you've got the level of conviction you need. Okay, you shouldn't do any more. Now, from there, it comes down to hiring. And really, the reason we start hiring early is so that we can kind of get our operations all ready. Okay, we want to get to this step as quickly as possible. Now, what we do, and we've had great success with this, it's helped us find, an incredible body of talent, is to find what we call full stack implementers. Okay, so instead of trying to find ultra skilled, highly professional individuals, maybe in the Western world, that are going to charge an arm and a leg for their service and not necessarily actually be as attentive as we might want them to be to our, small agency, what we do alternatively is to find full stack implementers who are basically low cost but have high compliance. So these are individuals who will do what they're told. Maybe it's virtual assistants. Through our training, we help them develop more skills, but they can indeed start as a virtual assistant. Ultimately, you want to combine low cost with high compliance, which is going to help you increase your profit margins. Okay, and from there, you can literally tell them what to do, and it's just a matter of them rinsing and repeating your SOPs. Okay. Now, the way that we test quality of contractors and employees is through a current trial task. This is always paid. Okay. The reason that we do this is because we want to build trust. There are plenty of agencies out there who will burn potential good talent by saying to them, we will employ you, do all this work for us, do it within an hour, we need it tomorrow. And then the agency takes the work and runs with it. And then the poor contractor's left with nothing. They've not been paid for their time. They've been sold false hope and false promises, and then they won't trust you. Okay. So ultimately what you want to do is set aside a small budget, set very, very clear parameters. You say 1 to 2 max. This is what I want you to do, and I'm going to pay you $20 to $40 for that. And just so you know, this isn't going to be reflective of your hourly wage going forward if you are successful. But in any case, I want to make sure that you are paid handsomely for the time that you spend on here. Okay, do that because it's going to leverage trust, and it's going to come back in a positive way to benefit you and the agency when you do work with these individuals. Okay, so ultimately what this trial task is going to do is create value. So what we do with the email agency is we will get a full stack implementer to actually go into a prospective client's account under analyst permission, so they don't get access to billing, they can't make anything go live or interfere with the client's existing infrastructure. But what we will get this implementer to do is actually create basically a brand analysis and audit. So they'll go in, they'll create this value document. It enables us to test the implementer's ability. And then in the future, what we can do is actually use that value document in our sales process, and we present that for free. Okay. So that's hiring. We do this early because hiring takes time. There's always that saying of you want to hire slow and fire fast. Ultimately, you don't want to fire. You want to make sure that all of your hires are key hires. They stay in your business. They perform as they should be, and that you're not constantly having to hire. But what you want to do, you want to make sure the chicken and the egg scenario isn't all chaotic so that your operations are all ready. So when you go and pitch an upfront infrastructure build for 10K or 5K or 36K, whatever it is, you actually have the ability to come through with your promises to the client. Okay, now once your operations are lined up, warmed up and ready, now you have to get into sales. Okay, so in order to scale any agency and in order to be any type of good entrepreneur, you have to be able to sell. Okay, and selling with an agency offer or any sort of online offer comes down to outreach. Now, what I recommend is picking one channel and pursuing that one channel to success. In the first instance, if this is a new offer or if this is something that you are new to, maybe you're coming from a full-time job, you've never been an entrepreneur, whatever it might be, don't run ads. Okay, you don't know what you're doing, you won't know how to iterate on them, and you're going to drain a load of money. So pick one channel, whether it's cold DMs, Loom outreach, cold email, whatever it might be, and follow up. Okay, and when you follow up, the amount of follow-up that you are doing or that you think you are doing, you need to multiply it by anywhere between 50 to 100. So multiply what you think you need to do by an effort of 100, and then you'll start booking calls. Okay, now when it comes to the calls, we have what we call our kind of 2 call close framework. Namely, this starts with an intro call. All right, the intro call is anywhere between 8 to 15 minutes. You leverage that in your outreach script where you ask the potential client in exchange for some value, whether you could speak to them for 8 minutes, whatever it might be. And when they say yes, yes, and when they're committed to the call and you speak to them on the call, honor that commitment. Okay, so say to them, if you reach the 8-minute mark, sorry, guy, we've hit the 8 minutes as I promised. I'm conscious we haven't covered everything. Can we book another call, or are you happy to carry on for a few minutes? All right. A lot of the agency game just depends on how honorable you are, how trustworthy you are, and how transparent you are. Okay, so stick to your word, do as you say you're going to do. All right. Now, when it comes to the intro call, really what this is going to enable you to do is actually reverse engineer an offer that you're going to get paid for. Okay, so a lot of the agency owners I work with who are just starting with new offers will create something out of thin air. They will have not done any due diligence, no primary, no tertiary, secondary or tertiary research about whether that offer is actually going to be something that they get paid for. They'll just pick something out of thin air and go into the marketplace, spam a load of leads, burn them, and then have to change their offer because it's not working. All right, now the way that we suggest you do this is you go into the intro call asking open-ended questions. And for the first 5 to 10 calls, you might think you already have a good offer. This is going to help you really iterate on your offer. Okay, now in that call, what you have to do is kind of threefold. First, you want to build a relationship. You want to come across as a normal person. Businesses do businesses with individuals. Okay, so ultimately it comes down to two people, two human beings, not an AI bot or anything like that, or a person to a business. It comes down to two individuals and largely whether they like each other or not. Okay, and from there, asking these open-ended questions, showing you're diligent, showing you're a normal person is going to help you build trust over time. And again, it's going to help you start to reverse engineer your offer. Now, when it comes to reverse engineering the offer, we already at this point have our service delivery vehicle fleshed out. We already know loosely what we're going to do. We're an email marketing agency, we're an AI implementation agency, whatever it might be. But ultimately what this is going to help you do is ascertain real need and urgency. So you're going to get a load of golden nuggets from the client, and they're going to say, look, our sales process is really good, but our call scripts are terrible. And, our sales rep, they're just spread thinly. They don't have enough time to actually test and create new scripts. And that's something that we desperately need help with. And to be honest, if we did that, i.e. urgency, if we were able to create new scripts within the next 24 hours, we could probably add 50 grand a month in top line revenue like that. Okay, so asking open-ended questions is going to get you to a point where you can really ascertain real need and urgency. Now, from there, you can kind of go through a process of offer iteration, which you can do over time. Ultimately, a good offer comes down to a couple of core inputs, all right? Is there actual value? Is this useful to the client? If you go to a big enterprise company and you say, we provide corporate artwork, is it really valuable to them? The answer is probably no. Okay, so it has to be something that makes sense. It has to be valuable. If you're watching this video, you already have an intuition of what is valuable. Okay, AI implementation, AI automation, whatever it might be, sales system scaling, you're going to know loosely what is going to be valuable. But in this offer iteration and reverse engineering process, you're really going to spit out an offer that has high specificity. Okay. Now, another thing to note in your offer is to speak to some sort of financial uplift. Okay. So with the AI work that we're doing, typically you can make clients money or you can save them money. We find, even slightly bad offers will be more successful if they are on that making money side of the sliding scale. Okay. It's very hard for clients, however big they are, however small they are, to decline the allure of actually increasing revenue and gaining money. Okay, everybody's in the mood all the time, always to make money. People aren't always in the mood to save money. Okay, not least if they're being quite successful. Right, so speak to financial uplift. Through XYZ, we're going to be able to increase monthly recurring revenue by 50k, 300k, whatever it is you're going to do. Speak to a short time frame. Okay, so maybe one thing you got to remember is that your headline offer isn't necessarily what's going to be agreed in the contract with the client. Okay, you don't want there to be a huge delta. You don't want to say in your headline offer, buy this ebook and it will cure cancer, and then they get an ebook and of course it doesn't cure cancer. You want to make sure those two ends of the spectrum are closely aligned, but it's you'd be doing your client a disservice to commit them and to pin them down to the exact wording of your headline offer as it is on your cold emails and landing page. Okay, it's not going to be fair. You're going to have to customize that. Okay, so it's not, you've got to remember your headline offer has to get attention, and a short time frame or perceived time frame and effort for how the client's going to get there is going to help increase book calls and conversions here. Okay, so speak to a short time frame. For us on the email front, it's we'll add 60 to 220k in monthly recurring revenue through placed highest order values in 24 hours. Okay. We've been able to do that through the scale we've achieved over the last 6 years. All right. Now, what you want to also make sure is that it's low cost, in quotation marks, and low risk. Okay. So cost isn't price. I'm not talking about, go to them and say, we'll work for free. Actually, I advocate for not doing that and not providing guarantees, because most legitimate businesses don't want to work with a company who isn't confident in their ability to produce. Okay. So unless you're a charity, charge for what you are doing. Don't offer guarantees. Don't work for free. Okay. Do not do that. It's a red flag for clients. But ultimately, you want to make it low cost and low risk. So what it comes down to is you don't want the client to feel like there's a massive burden of risk on them. Okay. You don't want them to feel or have any sort of sense that working with you as an agency or an individual is going to cost them big time in the long term. All right. Now, looping back here to the two call close. Once you've reverse engineered your offer, now comes the time to pitch the free value. Now, like I said, with the hiring process, what we like to do to achieve another kind of economy of scale is make sure that every new employee we bring on is doing a task for a prospective new client. Okay, so we can actually pay them for that task. It leverages value there. We're going to use that human capital, build trust with that individual that we're potentially going to hire. But we can also double up the value on that we're getting out of that. We can give that to the client, say, look, this is an audit that we produced for your brand. And this is something we do in full transparency with the potential employee that we're hiring. And we will say to them, the reason that you need to do a good job on this is because if we like it, we will share it with the client. And if the client likes it, you will then most likely take forward that analysis, that audit, that scope that you've built, and you will actually just deploy it for the client. Okay, so there's some accountability and continuity. They know in the trial task that they have to do a good enough job, and they can't just botch it with a load of random stuff, because ultimately they could be winning this contract. They could be taking this client on, and if they've just suggested a load of random implementations and things that don't work and don't produce any value, then chances are we'll see that in the first few days of them working, and then we're not going to work with them. Okay, we're going to have to find somebody else. Okay, so on that intro call, it's imperative, this is the most important thing, that you book another call. You book it live on that call. You don't hang up and say, it's great to talk to you. We built this relationship and all this trust, and I'll get in touch and we'll book another call to go over the details. Okay. Don't do that. You want to book a demo live on the intro call. And in terms of timeframes, anywhere between 24 hours to 2 days max. You do not want to book the demo call in 5 days time or 3 weeks time, whatever it might be. You want to say to them, look, we're going to just get on this straight away. We're going to build out your audit. We're going to come to this call with a load of implementations that you can take away and run with free of charge for yourself. Or perhaps if you like them, we can talk about how we might be able to do it for you. Okay, so on the demo call, once you book that, once you're attended, it's going to be between 45 minutes to 1 hour. You're going to present the free value that your contractors produced. Okay, so back here in hiring, we've tested their ability. They produced a good piece of work that we're happy with. Maybe we need to edit it, but if you've given them good instructions, it won't need any sort of work. And then really what it comes down to is creating the deal. Okay, so when you create the deal on this call, you want to talk about your offer specifically. You want to talk about the terms, so how long you're going to work with them, whether you're going to get paid up front, whether it's going to be a 90-day, minimum term, whatever it might be. You're going to hit them with the price, and then you're going to give them a payment link. Okay, and this is all information that you'll put ultimately in your boilerplate agreement or your terms of service or your pitch deck or proposal. Okay. In any case, you have to get the payment link in hand. It's not until the payment link that the client has a payment link in hand until you can actually charge, make money, and be successful in closing them. Okay. So all of this conversation that you've had currently up to this point has all been, intangible, esoteric. It doesn't really quite exist. But once you give the payment link to the client, once they have it in hand and it says, $9,000 for this upfront build, that's when the real deal making and sales progression takes place. Okay, so the sooner you get this payment link in hand, or the invoice sent out, or the client's ability to actually click something and pay you, that's when you're really going to get into the nuts and bolts of fleshing out these deals. Okay, and ultimately, what sales comes down to is these 3/4 core components. Okay, firstly, trust. Second, specificity. Thirdly, high price. And then fourth, your ability to match objections. Okay, now when it comes to trust and specificity, the sales process is going to be easy for you if the client trusts you, if you've done a good job in your interim, in beginning parts of your sales process, and also if your offer actually has, is specific to them and what they need. So if you've gone through that sales process and you've gone through all those sales calls, just, asking open-ended questions, not really listening to the client, and then coming back to them with just a boilerplate agreement that's based off a client that you worked with 4 years ago, they're not going to work with you. Okay. You have to make it specific to what you've discussed, all of their pain points, all of their emotional needs, and the urgency that's actually real in the conversation you've had. Okay. And in any case, charge a high price, because $500 per month clients are just as hard to close as $5,000 per month clients. Honestly, take it from me. But in any case, it's the cheaper clients that will cause more problems for you and your business. Okay. You can always lower your price. I don't recommend it, but ultimately setting a high price will help anchor your perceived value in the mind's eye of the client. Okay. And you always want to have a high perceived value in sales and in business. All right. Now, when it comes to objections, you are going to face objections. Okay. And these largely come down to these four key questions or queries. Okay. No time. The client doesn't have time, or they're saying, we're not going to do this now. We're going to do it in Q4. They're trying to delay. Okay. No money. This is something you should be able to flesh out in your prospecting. You shouldn't be reaching out to clients that do not have the budget to work with you. No need. Maybe you've, found a client through your conversations. Actually, they're well equipped and you've not been creative enough to find a solution or to tailor your solution to their specific needs, or they simply don't trust you. Okay. And you're going to have to do a load of work to actually gain their trust. Right. But once you've matched those objections, you then need to make it clear to the client that your onboarding is very easy. All right. So ultimately what this comes down to is communication and your ability to actually do and follow through with what you've said. So if you've been on a demo call and you've said, look, if you click the payment link and we check with our accounts team and the payment comes through, then you instantly get an onboarding link, which is quick, simple and easy, and it takes 15 minutes for you to complete. Okay. If you have said that you are going to do that, then do it. Okay. Because at every stage you might think it's, the client's not listening, and I promise you they are. And if they're not doing it consciously, they are registering it subconsciously. And if you go along this process, constantly failing to keep up with your promises, you're going to get to a point where it's incredibly hard to actually achieve scale with your agency and reduce churn. Okay. So it's going to become harder to actually keep these clients. All right. So onboarding should always be pitched quick, simple, and easy. If it's not, make it. Okay. And ultimately what it's going to come down to is not you building out some sort of fancy automated or beautiful video series to help onboard those clients. Ultimately, it comes down to you getting the assets you need, you getting accesses and logins that you need, and then details about the company that you're working with, colorways, tone of voice, whatever it might be specific to the service that you are delivering. Okay. So once that is done, you need to focus on making sure your service delivery is conducive to keeping that client happy. Now, we advocate for getting paid upfront for any sort of implementation, any sort of system or a build. And the reason that we do that is tenfold. I've got a load of other videos on the channel that shows you, the kind of nuts and bolts and the real details behind the scenes of our pricing models. But ultimately, what this is going to enable you to do is eradicate a load of payment risk for you and your company. It's going to enable you to hire more employees quickly if you need to. And then really the back end, it's going to help you build even more trust. So if you get paid up front for a system that you deliver within a short period of time, the client is going to be blown away with the amount of value that you've actually been able to deliver. You've proved that you've done what you said you were going to do. They've paid you and they've got exactly what you said you were going to do. And now what you can do from this point is leverage that trust through cross sells, down sells, or upsells. And we find on the back end, if we deliver an upfront build, an email infrastructure build for the client, 9 times out of 10, we'll say to them, look, you've got everything you need now. Like we promised, your business is future proofed. You don't have to work with us. There's no contracts to lock you in. But if you want us to manage your campaigns going forward, it's going to be $5,000 per month. And we have a 6-month minimum. Okay. 9 times out of 10, because we've actually done what we said we were going to do. It's that simple. The client's paid us and we've delivered the work quickly into a high standard. 9 times out of 10, they just say, yeah, we'd love to do it. Okay. And when it comes to retainers and whether you want to charge performance fees, ultimately it depends on whether you can actually deliver a good service. Okay, so if you can, then this is where you can say to them, look, we charge a retainer but also a monthly performance fee. But if you're worried about bad performance, just keep it simple. Stick to a retainer. If you have 20 to 25 client accounts under management every month that are paying you, $5,000, you're not really going to need a performance fee, to earn life-changing money. Okay, so once you've done that, in order to keep churn low, ultimately you have to do two things. You have to continually do a good job and you have to over communicate. But in any case, if you're new to this game, I've found through experience, even if you do a bad job, okay, even if you have promised the client a certain result or a certain financial uplift that month and you fail to achieve those goals, if you over communicate with them and be upfront and fully transparent, 9 times out of 10, they don't care. Okay, if you have back-to-back bad performance, and you've locked them in on an old school 12-month retainer, you've not charged up front for a build, you're buffering out your service delivery basically just to eke out a monthly retainer, and you're not really giving them any sort of demonstrable ROI, then no amount of over-communication is going to help salvage that relationship with the client. But ultimately, the client-agency relationship is one that is, give and take. There is a bit of back and forward, and as long as you can be accessible at the right times, and keep communication up and clear with the client, they're not always, if they're a good client and they're paying you well, they're not always going to hold your kind of, face to the fire if you've not achieved the results that you thought you were going to that month. Okay, so in any case, over communicate. From there, the way that you scale is by rinsing and repeating. Okay, so in order to achieve scale with this model, we zoom straight back here. One of the biggest problems I see agency owners who have achieved some sort of success is they get complacent. And this was definitely me in the first couple of years of running my agency. You're earning, more than all of your mates, earning more than your parents, and you've got a couple of clients. You think life is good, all is rosy, until you've gone, 3 months without doing any outreach, without doing your follow-ups, without putting any effort in. Clients have churned, client businesses, they wildly go out of business, or randomly something happens, which means they're no longer your client, and then you're back to square one. Okay, so in order to achieve scale, you've got to keep the machine going. You've got to keep stoking the fire when it comes to outreach, hiring, getting your operations ready, and improving your ability to sell. Okay, guys, so if you are struggling with any sort of agency offer or freelancing offer or AI offer, consult this video, bookmark it, save it, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment below. If you've got any questions, I'll be more than happy to help answer them, and I will see you in the next one. All right, cheers.